Hey guys, Tarkan here, back with another video. I actually wanted to talk a little bit on the subject of focus. Now, of course, the obvious thing is that we focus on things and that's how we manifest them, and we remove our focus from other things and that's how they sort of disappear from our reality, right? Oh, I guess you can say unmanifest them, but is that really what's happening? I wanted to just touch on an aspect of this that I think is important to understand, okay? And I've spoken in other videos on this idea of all of the possible outcomes that you can conjure up, that you can think up, already existing, right? In other words, the moment that you can conceive of a possible outcome, in that moment, that outcome exists. It's out there. It's kind of out there in the ether. It's in this hazy state, right? Hazy state of possibilities. And I think it's sort of other teachers and writers apply other terms to it. It's sort of the field of infinite possibilities and all that kind of stuff. But the basic idea and premise is, and I've said this in another video before, but I want to touch on it again because it bears repeating, of course, is, you can look at it as sort of water in its different stages, right? So in other words, water, when it's very hot, of course, it's steam, right? And steam is there. I mean, you understand it's there, but you can't really grasp it. You can't really drink it, right? It's sort of there, and it's water, or it's water particles at least, but it's still in this kind of ungraspable, kind of abstract, sort of not very tangible kind of state, right? Now, you apply a little, you cool it down and then it becomes liquid. Now, of course, you can drink it, you can bathe with it, you can throw it at people and that kind of stuff. And of course, now, the colder it gets, now it becomes solid, it becomes ice. And ice you can really hold in your hand and you can still throw it at people, although please don't. But I'm not encouraging that. But the point I'm trying to make is that all the possible outcomes are always there. They already exist. Now, what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is that, let me digress for a minute. Let me go back to the quarter experiment. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of what the quarter experiment is, and for those of you especially who don't live in the United States and don't know what a quarter is, now in the United States we have a quarter coin. It's a quarter of a dollar, so it's a 25-cent coin. Now, you can use any coin that's common in the denomination of your country to do this, but for people living in the U.S., it's very easy to imagine a quarter. We've used it our whole lives, so we can really imagine what it feels like, its weight in our hand. We can think of it very easily. We can visualize on it very easily because it's a common object that most people have experience with. So in that sense, if you, focus on a quarter every day, close your eyes even, you can feel it in your hand, the weight of it in your hand, how it feels in your hand when you do this with it, that kind of thing. You do that for just a couple of minutes every day. And what starts to happen after a while is that you start finding quarters everywhere, or people talk about quarters, or you start seeing quarters on television all the time, or people just give you quarters, all right? So, quarters will just sort of, or the idea of quarters, all that will just start showing up in your reality all of a sudden. They'll be everywhere. You'll be tripping on quarters outside the moment you leave your house, okay? Now, another example, a good one that's popular to use is yellow cars. Now, a yellow car isn't quite as common as a quarter, but of course that color yellow is going to stand out. It'll be easy to visualize. And also it'll be easy to notice when you suddenly start seeing yellow cars everywhere, okay? If you think like, oh, gray car, well, that's a pretty common one that you see anyway. But if you start focusing on yellow cars, suddenly you'll start seeing yellow cars everywhere. People will be talking about yellow cars. Your friend just bought a yellow car. Look at my new car, it's yellow. Go figure. But you've been focusing on yellow cars. So suddenly you see yellow cars. You see yellow toy cars everywhere. Yellow cars are showing up in movies all of a sudden, and in TV shows you're watching, that kind of thing, okay? Now, what's happening here? And this is always the question around this experiment. Now, did you conjure up the quarters out of nowhere? Did they just appear? Did you conjure up the yellow cars out of nowhere? Did they just appear? And of course, the simple answer is yes and no. That's That's the simple answer. So now, thank you, Torkan, for confusing us even more. Well, thank you for watching, and until next time. No, I'm kidding. The answer is yes and no. In other words, the possibility of the quarters and the yellow cars always existed the moment you conjure it up. And even being aware of yellow cars, that they exist somewhere. Maybe you've never seen a yellow car. Okay, maybe you've never been in the United States and you've never held or even seen a quarter coin, all right, a 25-cent US coin. Now, you're aware of its existence though, okay? So actually, this would be an interesting experiment. If you live in, I don't know, a totally different country and you've never seen a 25-cent quarter coin, try imagining one. Look at a picture of one online and try imagining one and see if you find them even in your country. That would be interesting. But probably you will. I mean, if you really put your dominant focus upon that thing, you probably will. At the very least, you'll suddenly hear conversations about it. You'll suddenly have people mention them to you. You'll see them in movies and on TV and all that kind of stuff, okay? So what's happening is the quarters, the yellow cars, all the things, all the possible outcomes already exist in that hazy state of possibilities. They've always been there, in other words, okay? Now, all you're doing is pulling them into your awareness through your focus. Now, here's the thing. Did the yellow car that just turned the corner, drive down the corner, not exist at all and only existed because I've now become aware of it? Does that mean the other person that's seeing the yellow car, it just existed for them all of a sudden too? Well, no, because the other person, you might find a friend who goes, I see yellow cars all the time. I find quarters on the street constantly. Now, they might be focused upon that by some default sense, or maybe they're doing it deliberately as well. But the point is, they're focusing on it, they're seeing it all the time. But if you're not focusing on it, you won't be seeing it, right? This is something very interesting, because there was this, I think it goes back to sort of, I'm trying to think if this is correct, because this goes back to sort of Native Americans seeing the first European ships on the horizon. They really didn't see them. You know, the accounts, I think, are historically that they didn't really see them at first because it was not something that they could conceive of, that was ever really in their awareness. You see what I'm saying? So the ships might be out there, but they're not seeing them, right? So it's about perception as well. But really what it's about is focus. And I don't know if that story is true, but I remember reading that somewhere. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, and I apologize if it is wrong for any armchair or even real professional historians out there watching. But that was something that just popped into my mind. I found interesting, that corresponds to what I'm talking about. So your focus is what's going to make something kind of come out of that hazy state. In other words, it's going to wake that thing up for you. So in a nutshell, what you focus on wakes up, and what you remove your focus from goes to sleep. That's probably going to be the title of this video. So, you know, what you don't focus on becomes dormant, right? It doesn't really disappear. It just kind of goes back into that hazy state that it was when that it's always been in, really. And it gets pulled back into that solid state, into your physical reality, really, which, of course, is not as solid as we know, is not as solid as we think it is. This isn't as solid. Well, this might be a little more solid than some other objects, but I digress. But the point is that it comes down to what you choose to put your focus on. And none of these things ever disappear. So there's good and bad news here, right? In other words, the bad things, if you remove your focus, the unwanted things, if you remove your focus from them, don't ever really quite disappear. They're always there. They'll just become dormant, but they don't ever completely disappear. Those possibilities will always still exist because you can conceive of them. But if you don't put your focus upon them, they won't be a part, or a dominant part at least, of your reality. Now, the good news of that is, of course, it works in the opposite direction as well. And this speaks to all of you out there who are manifesting specific people and exes into your life, who ask me all the time, Tarkan, did I ruin it? I said this dumb thing, or I did that stupid thing, and now it's gone, or I did my affirmations wrong, or whatever it is, or I had a day when I was feeling bad. Does that mean it's all over now? It's disappeared. My desire has gone poof, and never again shall there be another possibility for me to have that thing. Now, the good news is, of course not, right? Of course, the thing is always there. It's just gone to sleep, right? That's pretty much, that's great news. So really that means you can stop focusing on something that you want for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and then start focusing on it again, and then you can manifest that thing, believe it or not. And I think this, if I think back to like an earlier success story that I did a video on, and I can't remember now which one, but I recall that the woman who wrote me the letter said, hey, I managed to manifest my specific person and attention from my specific person. But then what started happening, because she had really done a lot of work on herself, and she had put the focus on herself and how awesome she was and how deserving she was, right? That what started happening was this other guy that she remembered from many, many years ago having a huge crush on. And of course, this was so long ago that it was before she was even aware of manifesting and law of attraction and all that, suddenly reappeared in her life. And showed a great deal of interest. So she was like, look at that. Actually, this guy, I remember this guy was pretty hot, and I had the hots for him. He's back. Well, I think it had been like 7 years or something, if I'm not mistaken. So you see, you can always reawaken those desires that you had, or if something, you remove your focus from something for a while, it doesn't mean it disappears or goes poof into the ether and turns to dust or something like that. You can always reawaken it with your focus. Now, that's excellent news, isn't it? But now here's another aspect of it that I want to touch on. And actually, I want to, before I do that, because it is almost 1 a.m. and I'm starting to babble and my mouth is dry. So I'm going to take I love that the water is carbonated in this country. I'm actually surprised it doesn't come out of the faucet carbonated. That would be something, wouldn't it? Oh, hey, that possibility exists. It does exist somewhere. Somewhere there's a reality where carbonated water comes out of the faucet. Anyway, but do I really want that? So now here's another aspect of this, because most of you coming to this channel, of course, as you already know, you're trying to manifest a relationship with an ex, a new relationship with an ex, or a relationship with a specific person that maybe you've never dated before. Maybe they don't even realize you exist, or you think they don't think that you exist, but you want a relationship with them. But for most of you, it's exes, I believe. So on the note of exes, what you're doing, of course, is you're so many of you, and especially my clients and people that write me emails and leave me comments and ask me these questions, what you're trying to do, of course, is manifest a brand new relationship with an ex. You don't want the old relationship back. And of course, you're not going to manifest the old relationship back. What you're really doing is manifesting a brand new, better relationship with that person than the one you had before. But now, most of you approach this, of course, from the perspective of, hey, I want this brand new, awesome relationship with my ex, but I'm going to try to do it by focusing and figuring out all the problems of the past relationship. Now, which aspect of that are you putting your focus on, then which aspect of that is going to wake up for you? Which aspect of that is going to come into your reality? You're going to keep re-manifesting those old, sticky, shitty, crappy parts of the old crappy relationship, aren't you? All the problems that existed there, them not talking to you, them being mad at you, you being mad at yourself, you being mad at them, yada, 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 because you're trying to figure out all the problems of what happened in the past. And as you're doing that, you're giving your focus, your dominant focus upon those things, and therefore they keep manifesting, right? So as you, for example, using the yellow car, if you have no resistance about yellow cars whatsoever, yellow cars will just show up easily, and they'll probably be cool looking yellow cars. They'll be like sports cars, or those, yellow bananas that like drive real fast and look real sleek, or whatever it is. But if you have, like, let's say you hate the color yellow, all right? Or maybe at some point in the past, you got cut off by a guy in a yellow car, and he was rude to you, and so now you think everyone in a yellow car is an asshole. So that's how yellow cars will now start showing up for you, okay? You'll see yellow cars everywhere, but then they're all going to be driven by assholes, or you'll get hit by one, or you'll see one, you hear of one that's been in an accident, or you hear, oh God, I remember that guy. He got into an accident. That sucks. What kind of car was he driving? It was a yellow car. You start seeing yellow cars, but they're all like lemons. Look at that, yellow car, lemon. They're all run down and old looking or something like that. So again, this is because of your focus, right? So you want to really be careful about what you focus on and how you focus on it, because your focus doesn't only determine what shows up in your life, or who shows up in your life. It determines how that thing or that person shows up in your life as well. So a lot of you will manifest, like a text message from an ex, but you're still focused on how long it took to get that message to begin with, or analyzing everything they said in that message, but you're not really seeing, focusing on the positive aspects of that. I had a client that's all that she focused on was the fact that her specific person had said something to her that she didn't like. It was something like, I'm ready to move on. But in the meantime, though, he had contacted her. They had a bunch of dates. They got really intimate. He was very physical in all that time, but she wasn't focusing on any of that. She was focusing on this one text message that he had sent when he was probably just having a bad day, but more likely she was having a bad day. Because she was focusing on all the things that were going wrong instead of all the things that were going right. So her specific person was showing up and going on dates with her and asking her out and wanting to spend quality time with her. But she was focusing, exclusively on the one or two little things that stood out for her that she didn't like, right? So now, in terms of that, though, what's happening there is she could just ignore those things, focus and celebrate what was actually happening, the progress that she had actually made, a great deal of progress. And I kept telling her how proud I was of her, that she should be celebrating, and that she had come a long, long way. Those aspects will just kind of go to sleep, and she'll be able to enjoy the relationship that she had now manifested. She had manifested it, and that was the relationship. You guys expect this stuff to happen overnight. They text you after 6 months, and then they propose marriage the next day. Hey, let's go have a drink. You want to marry me? I know. It's. I'm not saying you can have that. Hey, the possibility of it exists. Okay, but what's the likelihood of you're going to give that your easy focus, right? In other words, keep it simple and keep it believable for you as well, is the message with that. But the point of the video is very simply, focus is the key, but not just focus on what you put your focus on, but also how you focus upon that thing, all right? So, and a lot of times, of course, you'll get wobbly results because your focus is wobbly. You steady your focus, steady your legs, get your sea legs going, because it's a ride. Okay, and the ride's fun, but you gotta learn that stance. All right, you gotta learn that. I used to, years and years ago, I used to work with. Here's a little something about me. I used to work with mental health patients many years ago, and they trained us in self-defense moves. And one of the things they taught us, one of the most important things they taught us was, if someone comes to push you, you want to adopt a certain stance with your legs, like that you don't topple over very easily, and you want to practice that, and it's going to be unique for everybody, but someone's going to try to push you or try to punch you or something like that, and that happened quite frequently in those days in that job. I didn't last in that very long, but one of the things they taught you was, hey, feel out your legs and try out different stances and use the one and practice the one that feels the most steady to you, so that if someone does come and kind of shove you a little bit, you don't fall over so easily, right? Because you've sort of positioned your legs in a certain way that you're kind of braced, And that's kind of what you want to practice in terms of your focus. If your focus is wobbly, you want to practice that stance so that you reinforce your sort of power stance. Practice your power stance against the winds and the punches and the shoves that are going to come your way, okay? Because especially if you're manifesting, you're really just learning about this stuff, it can get a little bumpy sometimes, and that's okay. You'll get better at it the more you practice it. It got bumpy for me, and it still gets bumpy for me sometimes. But of course, I practice the stance. Oftentimes, it really isn't about avoiding or, not manifesting bad things. Bad things will happen. Unwanted things will happen. That's how our desires get formed in life. Without them, without the contrast, as Abraham Hicks calls it, we wouldn't really have any incentive to expand. And it's our desires that are born out of that contrast. And it's our going after our desires that causes us to expand and reach for more. That's how we evolve. That's how we grow forward and move forward. Not just as physical beings, but as spiritual beings, right? Not just as physical beings on this planet. So you want to be okay with that, and you want to embrace it. But the point of it is that which aspect of that are you going to choose to focus upon? The nature and the quality of your experience with any circumstance in your life is going to be determined by what you choose to focus on and how you choose to react to that thing. Okay, so that's what I want to say about that. Focus. Okay. Learn to make it your friend. Learn to control it, and you can control it. Okay, so when those wobbly things kind of happen, when wobbly things happen, you'll understand now, oh, that's because my focus has been wobbly. That's because I've been like focused, split focus, I get split results. Focus on that, I get that back. Focus on this, I get that back. Stop focusing on this, it goes to sleep. It becomes dormant. If I start focusing on it again, guess what? It wakes up again. Okay, and that's for the good things and the bad things. The good things and the bad things. I wanted to put the bad things over there and the good things over there. I don't know why, but just wanted to do it. All right, so I hope that was clear enough, even though it's 1 a.m. and I'm ready to go to bed, and I'm probably starting to babble and my throat is dry. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. As always, thanks for subscribing. If you haven't done so already, please hit that button now. If you want coaching, it's down in the box below. If you want to join the Facebook group, that's down in the box. If you want to leave me a tip, that's down in the box. Basically, everything that you might want to know about me or anything to do with this is down in the box. So just go down in the box, okay? And hit subscribe, for God's sakes. Thank you. All right. Until next time, guys, I'm Tarkan. Have a wonderful night or morning or day or afternoon, wherever you are across this wonderful, crazy, lunatic, weird bubble of ours. And until next time, bye-bye. Nope.